Today, we'll be discussing the Cybermen's triumphant return, which was quickly destroyed, the history of Doctor Who's reconstructions, the Macra Terror's reanimation, and how audio recordings of the Faceless Ones helped restore the returned episode to its former glory. Our 16th missing serial is the Moonbase. Earth has conquered the Moon in 2070 and use it as a base for their weather control. Unfortunately for the Earth people, the Cybermen have their sights on their Moonbase and the Earth. Episodes 1 and 3 are missing from the archive. So, what does exist? Graham Strong's audio recordings are considered the best quality for this serial. David Holman and Richard Landon also made recordings. Episodes 2 and 4 exist in the archive. In the early 80s, another copy of episode 4 was discovered and it was a higher quality. Therefore, we have 2 copies of episode 4, 1 copy of episode 2, and everything else is gone. All telesnaps exist for this serial. 4 prints of the Moonbase were created. Australia returned their copy in 1975. Zambia doesn't hold any BBC material. Hong Kong probably destroyed the prints. New Zealand mentioned having the serial in their stock take in 1970, but was assumed to be junked in 1974. Interestingly enough, the film can for Moonbase 3 was found in Wellington, New Zealand in 1990. Sadly, it did not contain the episode within. Behind the scenes, it was getting desperate. The Cybermen's first return was made as a pitch for replacing the Daleks, who had lost favour in the public's eye. During the recording of episode 1, the Gravitron prop fell apart and almost hit Patrick Troughton, who was underneath it mere seconds before. During this time, the production of an episode was created a week before broadcast, leaving no room for re-recording if an issue had arose. During the recording of episode 4, the sound equipment picked up an audio from the floor manager's headphones and had to be edited out in post. The Cybermen proved to be a success and cemented the future for the Doctor's villainous cybernetic adversaries. So, what are the ways of watching the Moonbase today? The Moonbase was animated by Planet 55 in 2014 and was released on DVD. The surviving episodes were also released in the Lost in Time box set. Loose Cannon reconstructed the Moonbase in 2002, LC18. An audio soundtrack was released in 2001, narrated by Fraser Hines, and re-released in 2011. The story was novelised as Doctor Who and the Cybermen, released in 1975. Let's talk reconstructions. In 2018, we are so lucky to have various ways of viewing the missing episodes. We have animations, audio releases, novels, and reconstructions. In the past, the access to missing episodes wasn't this easy, so when Richard Landon, whose name you might remember from recording audio of various missing episodes, made one of the first ever reconstructions. After sourcing images from the BBC Photographic Library, which Landon obtained by offering to catalogue their department in exchange for free copies of photographic transparencies, Richard got access to the power of the Dalek telesnaps. So he gathered his audio recordings, the telesnaps, and a copy of the camera scripts, and he began to work on his reconstruction. By using a setup of 2 cameras, a mixing desk, the original audio tape, and lighting, the first ever reconstruction was born. Since then, reconstructions have evolved and have become even more complex. The most notable group of reconstructors are Loose Cannon. In 1996, Loose Cannon was founded, and their first reconstruction was released in 1997, and it was the Macra Terror. Our 17th missing serial is the Macra Terror. The Doctor and friends land on another idyllic Earth colony in the distant future. On first glance, it appears to be a happy holiday camp, yet it soon becomes clear it's far from that. Sadly, all 4 episodes are missing from the BBC archive. So, what does exist?
Macra do not exist! There are no Macra!
Graham Strong's audio is considered the highest. David Holman and Richard Landon also made recordings. Censor clips from episode 2 and 3 exist, which gives an interesting insight into how the Macra moves and looks in the final product. Off-air recordings of episode 3 also exists. We are lucky to have all telesnaps existing for this story also. 4 prints of the Macra Terror were made and sent out. Australia and New Zealand junked their copies in the mid-70s. Zambia doesn't hold any BBC material, and Hong Kong remains mysterious. A new title sequence for the Doctor came late, but was worth the wait. The new titles were created by the original titles designer, Bernard Lodge. The addition of the Doctor's face within the sequence was originally going to be done for the first ever title sequence, which Verity Lambert, the original producer, found too terrifying. Innes Lloyd, however, liked it. Originally, these new titles were supposed to debut with the Underwater Menace, but that didn't come to pass. The Macra prop was so large and cumbersome, it had to be mounted to a van in order for it to move. The production team were very upset with the final product of the Macra prop by Shawcraft Models, and this started the beginning of the end of their association with Doctor Who. So, how can you watch the Macra Terror? An official animation by BBC Studios was released in March in 2019 and can be viewed on either DVD, digital, or Blu-ray. The surviving clips were originally released on the Lost in Time box set. The Macra Terror was reconstructed as LC01 and was remade in 2006 as LC24. The original audio release was narrated by Colin Baker in 1992 and was re-released and remastered in 2000. In 2012, Annika Wills recorded a new version of this story. The Macra Terror was novelised in 1987. Our 18th missing serial is The Faceless Ones. Arriving back on Earth on the 20th of July 1966, the TARDIS team end up on a runway at Gatwick Airport. They uncover the mystery of missing students who seem to board an airplane but never come off. Sadly, only 2 episodes out of 6 exist in the BBC archive. So, what does exist? Graham Strong's audio recordings are considered to be the highest quality. Holman and Landon also recorded this story. Episode 1 and 3 exist in the archive. Episode 3 is sadly damaged in quite a few places, and an estimated 19 seconds are missing from the episode. Thanks to the restoration team, the episode used Graham Strong's tapes to restore the soundtrack, and the 19 seconds of missing footage were recreated using CGI and cutaways. Off-air recordings of episode 2 exist, which goes for 3 seconds. Thankfully, a full set of telesnaps exist. 4 prints of The Faceless Ones were created. Australia's copy was returned to the BBC in 1975. The surviving episodes 1 and 3 could possibly be these copies. Zambia doesn't have it, New Zealand returned it, and Hong Kong hasn't been confirmed yet. Sadly, it wasn't only the students disappearing, but the Doctor's friends, Polly and Ben. The Faceless Ones was originally envisioned as a 4-parter, but was extended to be a 6-parter. This was troublesome with Annika and Michael's contracts, which were supposed to end in 8 episodes, meaning their final episode would now be episode 2 of The Evil of the Daleks. It was decided instead they would be paid in full for episodes 1 and 2 of Evil without using their services. Also being cut from Doctor Who was Shawcraft Models, after delivering a model satellite that didn't work correctly. From here on, they enlisted the services of the BBC Visual Effects department. So, how can you experience this serial today? As of this release, The Faceless Ones has not been officially animated. The surviving episodes have been remastered and re-released in the Lost in Time box set. Loose Cannon reconstructed The Faceless Ones twice, LC02 and LC37. An audio release was narrated by Fraser Hines in 2002 and re-released in 2012. The novelisation was released in 1987. Which of these stories would you like to see return to the archive most? Join us next episode as we are affected by the Dalek factor in The Evil of the Daleks, encounter the Yeti in The Abominable Snowmen, and continue our frosty adventures in The Ice Warriors. Follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my channel for more Doctor Who content.